Hello, and welcome to Cooking with Todd. This is Todd. For today's video, I'm making a Channa Masala. For this, you're going to need 500 grams or 1.5 cups of dried chickpeas. I'm using 1 can here of regular store-bought chickpeas that was already canned or cooked, whatever. And then I have 2 jars of my home canned chickpeas. And I'm probably not going to use all of this, but I'd rather have a little extra than not enough. You're going to need 1 large onion. You're going to need 2 to 4 fresh chilies. I have some frozen jalapenos that are ripe that I'm going to be using today. If you would want to use something hotter like a serrano, go right ahead. You're going to need 3 to 4 fresh tomatoes, or you can use a 400 gram or 14 and a half ounce can of crushed tomatoes. I want to use these because it's going to go into a blender anyways, so they'll be crushed and pureed. You're going to need half a head of garlic. I'm not sure if this is quite half a head. I got a crap ton of garlic and some of it's starting to go bad, so need to use it. You're also going to want a can of diced green chilies. This is optional. I'm using it because I have it and it needs to be used anyways. You're going to need a large thumb of ginger. I'm not going to use all this. I'm probably only going to end up using like this right here, or maybe this. I'm going to probably just use this here. And I will show you how I peel that later in the video. You're going to need around 5 to 10 green cardamom pods and 3 bay leaves. You're going to need 1 tablespoon of garam masala. This is some homemade that I made today. I also made a video for that, so that will be coming out shortly. You're also going to need some tomato paste, about 1 to 2 tablespoons of that. You're going to need some salt. I need to fill this back up. You're going to need some sugar just to cut that acidity back just a little bit. You're going to need some ghee. If you do not want to use ghee, you can use regular oil. If you'd want to make your own ghee, you're going to need to heat up your butter, preferably on a lower heat as to not burn the milk solids, and those should come up to the top and form a whitish foam. You'd want to scrape that off. What you're left with is the milk fats, and that's what ghee is. You're also going to need some fresh cilantro, which is optional. You don't need to use that, which I don't think I even have any. I might have some. If I do, I will throw that in. And that is going to be a garnish. To get started, if you're using fresh chickpeas and not canned, you're going to need to soak these at least for a few hours. And you're going to want to go ahead and boil those with the soaking liquid with a teaspoon of salt. And you might need to add extra water, as these are going to need to boil for about half an hour. Let's see. To start, I'm going to go ahead and get this chopped up off of camera, and the garlic I'm going to use a garlic press with, and I do have some rice started there in the back of my stove. I like to do my rice how the Chinese or Asian, however you really want to say it, do their rice. I rinse it 3 or 4 times, get the excess starch off. Then I let it soak for anywhere from half an hour to an hour, depending on how much time I have. Then I put enough water in the pan to come up 1 knuckle. So, first knuckle on my index finger there. That is enough water. Put it on the burner, bring it up to a boil on around a medium heat. Lower the heat to in between a medium low and a low, preferably lower than that. And you're going to want to put your lid on it and do not touch it at all. And you'll know it's done whenever there is no water left in the pot. So I'm going to go ahead and just get this here and my onion chopped up off camera, and I will be right back. Okay, so I'm back. I have everything I need chopped up, and I'm going to start by adding in some of my ghee. I'm just going to scoop a little of it in there. I'm going to turn my heat up just a little bit. I had it on a medium-low. I'm going to turn it up to around a medium. I'm just going to try and get this extra ghee off of the spoon. Set that aside. And I'm going to go ahead and add in 1 tablespoon of my homemade garam masala. And the recipe says ground turmeric and some ground amchur, however you want to say it. It's pretty much dried mango chunks or pieces. I added that to my garam masala, so that's why I'm not adding that into the recipe as it is. So I am going to grab my teaspoon, since the tablespoon will not fit in my jar. I'm going to start by adding in the garam masala here. And it did call for a heaping teaspoon, or tablespoon I should say. So I'm going to add in about 1/2 to 3/4 of a teaspoon of extra here. That's good enough. And I am going to grab a rubber spatula here. And I'm just going to stir this around in the ghee. If only you could smell how good this smells right now. I'm going to cook this here for just a little bit, not too long. About 30 seconds. Then I'm going to go ahead and add in my ginger here. I'm going to grab my garlic press. I'm going to turn this heat back down a little bit. I'm going to add in my ginger now. And I'm going to just put a couple cloves of garlic in here. Since I got so many, I can't do them all. And I'm going to add those in a couple at a time. And I'm also going to use the trick where I double crush my garlic. Well, that wasn't supposed to fall in there whole, but that doesn't matter. Honestly, I probably could have just roughly chopped this garlic and got away with doing it that way. Saved me the time of doing it this way. But that's good enough right there. I'm going to go ahead and stir this again. Now that I'm letting this here saute for a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and add in my onions and jalapenos. And those are just roughly chopped, nothing special. Go ahead and give that a stir. I'm going to open up this can of diced tomatoes. This is going to be one of the last things I add in to kind of deglaze the bottom of the pan. Also going to open up that can of chilies, and I'm going to add that in now. I'm going to go ahead and add in just a little bit of salt at this point, about half a teaspoon. And I'm also going to add in just a little more ghee, as I think it needs it. Another 3 tablespoons, I'm going to say. This is all by preference and taste, or whatever. I'm going to turn my heat up as the pan's cooled down just a little too much. And at this time my rice is done. It has absorbed all of the moisture, or water I should say, and it is perfectly fluffy. I have not touched it since I put it on here. Only brought it up to a simmer, then lowered my heat to low, and it is just perfect. Not overcooked or anything. So I'm going to just put the lid back on and leave that back there to stay warm. And I am looking to sweat most of the moisture out of those chilies and the onion. So that's going to take some time. So I'm going to go ahead and just bring you back in about 10 minutes or so, whenever that, or right around the time that would start to happen. So, okay, so I'm happy with this right now. A good portion of that moisture from the green chilies is now evaporated, and I'm not really looking to cook all of this right now, as it is going to be pureed and then cook some more. So I'm going to kind of push some of this to the side. Going to take right out of there. I'm going to put a couple tablespoons worth of tomato paste in there. And I'm just going to move this around to kind of cook it a little bit, give it a little extra depth of flavor, kind of get some of that hot oil in there. Not that I have much in here to do that, but now you don't want this to burn. You want this to stay pretty much in the middle at this point. Just looking to fry this for about 45 seconds. I'm going to push it over to one side where there's a little extra oil. My stove tends to lean to this side. Tried fixing it. Doesn't really help. My leveling feet's kind of maxed out, so my floor here is horrible, but I can't do anything because I live in an apartment, so. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and mix that in. It's starting to get a little brown there. And I'm going to cook this for just a little longer. Not long. Maybe about another minute or so. And then I will bring you back. Okay, so this is gone for another minute or so. I'm going to go ahead and give this another quick stir. Move everything around. I'm going to go ahead and dump in my tomatoes. And I am going to rinse this can out with about half a can worth of water. And I am not going to discard this can because I'm going to use this can to measure my chickpeas here. And I did keep the liquid from all of those chickpeas, as I am going to reuse that later. I'm going to go ahead and mix this a little bit, get the fond off the bottom, which it has already started to release. Going to turn the heat up to a high, not off. I'm going to bring this up to a simmer. I'm going to simmer this for about not even half an hour, about 15 minutes. I'm just trying to get the onions a little further cooked, or cooked a little further, I should say. Have some of that water evaporate that I added to rinse the can out. And something I do want to mention, when you use the can of whatever you're using, you're going to want to do a 2-to-1. So 2 cans of peas, chickpeas, to 1 can of tomato. Just a little rule of thumb there to kind of even everything out. I am going to go ahead and just bring you back. This is going to simmer here for about 15-20 minutes. Okay, so this here is done to my liking. If you want to take this a little further, you can. Or if you don't want it to go this far, you don't have to. This went for about 15 minutes. I think it was around 13 minutes that this has been simmering here. And I have it on a medium high. I got my blender here. And I'm going to transfer everything over to my blender. And I'm going to blend this for about a minute. And I will bring you back. And one other thing I did forget to mention at the beginning of the video when I was doing the ginger and garlic. If you want to use something like this, you can. It's just a ginger garlic paste. I think I got that on Amazon. I'm not sure. There really is no Indo-Pac store around here, so, or Indian grocery, whatever you want to call it. So I'm going to give this one last stir. I'm going to go ahead and turn my heat off and get this blended up, and I will be back. Okay, so I got this all blended up now. I'm going to keep my heat off on my stove for the moment being. I'm going to go ahead and just clean the top of this off and get everything dumped back into my pan. Okay, so I'm back, and I'm going to go ahead and turn my heat on a medium high now. I'm going to add, not all of this, oh, there's about 1.5 teaspoons in there, so I'll add that. I'm going to go ahead and add in the cardamom, or cardamom, however you want to say it. I'm going to wait on the bay leaves, and I'm going to let this simmer here for just a little bit, probably about 2-3 minutes. Just trying to get just a little more moisture out of this, if possible. And I'll just bring you back in the 2 to 3 minutes. Okay, so this is gone for about 1.5 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and add in my bay leaves. And I'm going to add in 2 cups, which is all that I have of the liquid from the chickpeas. I'm going to stir that in. Now, I'm not worried about this not being too thick or runny right now. It's going to thicken up with the starches and everything from the chickpeas. So I'm going to go ahead and just stir this together like I am now. And normally I would go ahead and add in my chickpeas, but since I'm using 1 can of store-bought and 2 jars of my own, my chickpeas came out just a little too tender for my liking. I'm going to try and get one to show you what I'm talking about. So here's one of the store-bought ones. Took a little more for me to squeeze that, and that was a store-bought too. But there's, that one was mine, so I could have easily squeezed that. I don't know if, yeah, but anyways, and the only reason I'm not adding salt at this time is because the chickpeas are salted the broth I just added from the chickpeas, or the liquid from the chickpeas, is salted, and I didn't want to overdo it, so that's why I added only about a half a teaspoon. I'm going to go ahead and measure out with this jar or can here, and I don't know why I'm trying to shake them in. I'm going to just take this here, rinse it off, and just give these a quick stir. I kind of want to get even amounts, or equal amounts, of mine and the store-bought canned chickpeas. And I'm going to just use this to scoop them in and use my hand to top it off. Now, I know this isn't going to be exactly how much is in a store-bought jar, but it works. I don't mind having a little extra when it comes to the chickpeas. And if I'm going to have, I probably might end up just throwing this all in, because that's all I'm going to have left. And I'm probably not going to use these before they would go bad. So I'm just going to see how many chickpeas I have left. Thinking it's probably going to be about half of a can. If that's the case, which it is, I'm just going to throw this all in. That was kind of a waste of time. I'm going to give this a quick stir, make sure it's not sticking or anything. And as you can tell, it has already thickened up a little bit, so that's good. And at the end of this, you are going to want to remove your bay leaves, and you're also going to want to remove your cardamom pods. I'm going to lower my heat to a medium, and I'm going to add my chickpeas at this time. And since mine's a little tender, those are probably going to end up disintegrating a little bit, which I don't really mind. Now this should be enough for about 4 to 6 people. Since I have extra chickpeas, mine's going to be quite a bit left over, so I might end up eating on this for a couple days this week. And to serve this, you're going to serve it over rice if you'd want. Alternatively, you can use some naan bread, which is kind of like a flatbread. Now this isn't authentic or anything because I don't have the proper stove, or should I say oven, to do it. It's like a clay oven. I don't have that, obviously. I live in an apartment, so I just pan fried this, and I have a small little camp butane stove that I use. And what I do is, this is the side that is on the pan, obviously, and I take my fingertips and I dip it in water, and I kind of just go like this on the back like that, and that helps it stick to the bottom of the pan. I let it cook for a little bit on that one side until some bubbles, like this right here was a big bubbles right there, and then after that I take it and I just flip the pan over, since the and I don't add no oil to that pan either. But I take it and I flip the pan over, then I cook this side here over the open flame. And I kind of like it better that way because gravity helps assist, and it kind of makes bigger bubbles, or air pockets, whatever you want to say. So I'm going to let this come back up to a simmer, and at that point it's done, other than removing the 3 bay leaves in here. This is going to probably take another 10-15 minutes. And I did forget, now that everything is together in the pan, if you can go ahead and taste it for salt. I'm going to go ahead and taste it right now before it gets a little too hot for my mouth to personally handle. So it needs more salt. add about another teaspoon. Don't really got that much left in there. I mean, I knew I needed more, but I'm going to go ahead and stir that. I might end up using the rest of that. I do not know. I don't want to overdo it right now. And also, if you think this would be too spicy with 4 jalapenos, you can go ahead and just use 1, 2, 3, or if you want it spicier, you can use a hotter chili, like a serrano, or even go a step further and use a habanero, cayenne pepper, whatever you want, personally, you can use. I personally think that the 4 jalapenos, my jalapenos that I grew this last year, were a little on the hotter side of jalapenos, so 4 of those was enough. It kind of came out to be around as hot as 2 serranos would be, so this is kind of thickening up enough. I'm going to go ahead and give this one more taste. I'm going to add the rest of this salt. I kind of want it to be a little over salted, as the sauce is going to have to salt the rice and also the naan, and it's really good. I ended up eating almost that whole piece just sitting here stirring this, or standing here stirring this, I should say, not sitting. So I'm going to go ahead and just bring you back when this is finished thickening up to where I'm happy with it. Okay, so this is done, and I just wanted to show you how thick this is now. It's starting to splatter everywhere, kind of like how tomato sauce would. And this is going to thicken up as I let it sit here for about 10 more minutes to kind of cool off a little bit. Another trick you can use, well, not another, a trick you can use to help thicken this up a little bit is just get an area of chickpeas and just kind of smash them. And then if you get any stuck to the bottom of your spatula like that, just scrape them off. Then just go through and stir it. That's what I ended up doing to help this thicken up a little faster. I'm not really too worried about losing some chickpeas by doing that. That just helps release some of their starches a little faster and incorporate that into the sauce to thicken it up. This is right around the consistency I'm looking for, and as this sits here a little bit and cools off, it's going to thicken more. So I am going to wrap this up now. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and make sure to smash that like button. If you enjoy the content I am putting out, make sure to smash that subscribe button. And as always, thank you for coming along with me on this journey of mine.